Start with this reaching, pulling in the rope. The difference between doing it standing, doing it sitting, that when we're doing it sitting, we're twisting the shoulders against the hips because the hips aren't moving. Here, I'm trying to get it all coming from the turning. So I'm very conscious of the operation of my legs on the ground. I'm turning the way we do. So here, this is extending because my leg is straightening. So my arm and my leg on the same side are both straightening. And then this catches the rope. Imagine if you were sort of pulling something and it had sort of inertia, you'd have to give it a bit of a tug first to get it going. It's the same with the ground here. I catch the ground and I sort of snatch at it, snatch the ground, pull, and then this leg starts pushing. And to feel that suddenness at the beginning of the return. A sudden pull and then a slow extension, sudden pull and a slow extension. Two very different energies. The suddenness is like a burst of spirit, and the slow, steady extending is really just the energy flowing. As you extend, feel the little finger extending and the little toe. I think of the little finger and the little toe being like the scout that ventures out. They're small and discreet so that they're not noticed by the enemy. So they can venture places that big things can't get into. Okay, and then just two riding horse. So when we come to riding horse, we come back to the sinking, a feeling of a relaxing flow down through the body, draining into the ground. So let's just try that Qigong circuit again. And here it has to split into each leg. That's the tricky bit. So here's gathering into the head, the spine. Then here it has to split again. back to riding horse. Just feel that flow down. And then just switch your mind. And it really is just a switch. So instead of feeling that gravity as a flow down, feel it as like a solidity, a solidification, a strengthening rising up. So the strength coming up from the ground, that's a consequence of gravity. It's just another way of looking at the gravity. It's nothing to do with the levity. The levity is that sparkly spirit that rises up through that. So we're just looking at gravity at the moment. You can feel it as either something that's sinking and flowing down through you, a sort of letting go, or something that's squeezing up through you. And now let's just try reversing the circuit. So I come up each leg, up my spine now, out of my head. Just think of a weeping willow with the branches drooping down to the ground and then gathering into the trunk and out and down. Try to have the legs bent a little bit and feel the outside edges. So the knees are definitely out, and that will bring you into the outside edges. Good. And just back to riding horse. And now we should be able to feel those two a little bit more clearly. The sinking and the rising. It's not straightening the legs, it's something straightening within the sinking. Like something is growing up you, strength is growing up your body until it gets all the way to the head. It's the two aspects of the root. We've got one aspect, which is our own energy sinking into the ground and extending into the ground. And then the other aspect of the root is the ground that's extending up into you. And it's up to you how you feel it, really. The difficulty or the problem, really, of feeling it as part of you that's extending into the ground is you tend to get stuck. You become planted, and then it's difficult to move. Which is why, the martial arts, they're much more sort of into the spirit. And so this sense of something coming up and inspiring them, infusing them, and then dancing around with that. It's still the root. It's just a different way of feeling it. And now let's breathe. So this is largely for flexing the spine. And it's my spine that's breathing really, but also the root is breathing. So here I'm being sucked down into the ground. The root under the ground is sucking me down. And then you can feel this as the ground coming up into you. So here I'm flowing down. I'm sort of pooling underneath the ground like the subterranean lake. And then here the ground is extending up into me. This is so important, working on the root. This is how we work on like a connection to nature. It's a connection to the ground beneath our feet. And then you're at home wherever your feet are, because you're connecting to the ground that's beneath you all the time. Or as I breathe in and pull the hands in, I just want to make sure I'm sinking, I'm sucking down a little bit into the legs. And then here something is extending up through me without straightening my legs too much. And then here I have to make an effort to bend the legs here, because that's the one thing we don't want to do, is bend the legs. And then here I have to make an effort not to straighten them too much. I'd like my legs to be, just as active and fluid and expressive as my arms. So here my arms have no problem bending because they're not supporting me at all, but my legs, of course, are supporting me, so they're struggling all the time. I want my legs to be learning from my arms. But remember, it happens in the legs first. The movement of the hands is the last thing. It's all in the lower body, and then the hands start drifting in. So. Standing again. Now turning again, but now really turning. So when we were turning in order to extend, my mind was really on the reach. Like I could sense the point I was trying to reach towards, or the direction, and I was just going for it. And I know that I have to turn away from it. My eyes have to lose it in order to get an extension. So that's turning in order to produce a straight line. Now we just really want to feel the pure turning. I'm turning around something, I'm wrapping around. Feel the centripetal, the sense of being drawn in towards the core of turning. So that my arms are being sucked into my body and are wrapping around. And that will only happen if I feel the turning as a real turning. this leg is catching, and then it starts pushing. Yeah, so this leg catches, then this leg pushes a little bit, but then this leg has to start pushing as well. Otherwise, the arms will be flung away from the body. I want them to sort of be sucked into the body. Like a big python sort of wrapping itself around your body and just tightening. So part of me is being thrown out, but part of me is wrapping up, is pulling in. And it pulls in not by doing this, but by wrapping around. And for that, we need to go to extremes with our turns, try and turn as far as possible, which requires me to really push this hip backwards, not just push this hip forwards. Both hips have to be moving against each other to produce this tightening turn. Feeling that the back hand really tries to get around as far as it can. So it has to really stick to the back. The hand drops, and then I imagine that I'm grabbing a handful of dirt from the ground here and just throwing it around my body so that it's thrown forwards, if you like, but from behind. And then let's go into this one. So here we have to just struggle even more really to keep that feeling of wrapping, because now I'm moving the spine side to side as well as turning around it. And when I move the spine, it will tend to reduce the turning action. So here I turn, it's that moves me from leg to leg. So the first thing you should do is turn, not move. This is Chen Manqing's big secret. Normally in young style, they move back, and then if they need any more room, they'll turn. But that's basically just avoiding the other person, grappling, if you like. As Chen Manqing was just very much into the energy, and the energy is produced in Tai Chi through the turning. It's this whirling, like a whirling dervish that's changing direction all the time. Imagine that your hands are scraping the ground. So you're making a big circle, you're digging a circle. Okay. Let's evoke that image of having just come out from a hot shower. So you're standing there on the bathroom floor, naked, with the water trickling down your body and pooling on the floor, and steam rising from you. It's the same substance, it's water, but in its liquid and gaseous phases. So it's a different phase. So there's that beautiful saying in the Tao Te Ching, soft like ice about to melt. So softness is the solid becoming liquid, and spirit really is the liquid becoming gas. So we can feel that here, almost like your body is wanting to melt as the water trickles down. It wants to flow with the water, but your spirit is wanting to rise up into the sky, to the heavens. And we are both. The one we find difficult being with, that's the one we need to practice. And it's generally the spirit, because we think of ourselves as this body rather than thinking of ourselves as this spirit, delightful, sparky, spirited energy that's inside. It's like if you wanted to pick something up, or you wanted to, our image, picking the apple off the tree. Or Heidegger used the hammer, the workman reaching out to pick up the hammer. So as you reach for the object, your mind is with the object that you're reaching towards. Your mind isn't in your hand. You're not watching your hand reach the object. Your mind is just with the object, and your hand goes for it automatically, because we have this thing called proprioception. We know where our body is in relation to the objects around us. So that's very much your spirit, so your spirit is already there and your hand reaches. Same when we pull with the foot, my spirit is already there and my body pulls me towards it. And so in that sense, we're with the spirit. We know what it means to be spirited creatures. But when we work studiously, laboriously, slowly, then the spirit tends to sort of shrink in, and we're much more with the body. And we just have to realize this and guard against it, really, guard against becoming too sort of heavy and formal. Let's just try now the two circles. And here you can feel that double aspect. So the hand that's reaching out, that's sort of reaching out, but it's also tending to reach upwards, of course. And then when the hand comes in, it tends to drop downwards. So the hand that reaches out is with the spirit. And the hand that's coming in is with my body, my heaviness, my gathering. And I just want to feel them both, because they're both there all the time, one in one side of the body and the other in the other side of the body. And just notice that the spirit, the lightness, is with your emptiness. It's with the side of your body that's emptying of the weight. And as you bring the object in, you're coming into that side of your body. So the object that you've gathered is becoming part of your body the closer it comes in. And so I am a fullness or a fillingness, and I am an emptying. So one side is filling, and obviously the other side must be emptying. I just want to feel the differences in those two phases and train a mind that gets both active all the time. And the two phases, the empty and the filling, they're just very different minds. We're so much used to the filling mind, if you like. That's sort of the heavy mind that's focusing in. And the emptying phase is just the mind that's reaching out and just rarefying. The lightness. And then let it become the figure of 8 exercise. The problem with the figure of 8 exercise is we lose that dual aspect, because when I'm doing the figure of 8, I'm sort of with my heaviness all the time. I'm with my weight coming around this foot, and then I'm with my weight coming around this foot. So I tend to lose the lightness. So we just need to find a way of doing the figures of 8, retrieving that sense of lightness. So here I'm with my heaviness. But then if I think in terms of the leg that's straight and the leg that's emptying, and get the arm to do the same thing, instead of getting my arms to come down here with my heaviness, to get it with the lightness, then it's a figure of 8 again, but now I'm with the lightness that's figure of 8ing rather than with my heaviness. So the emptiness flows out here, but then it has to start catching, and that allows the emptiness to flow out here. This is how we would really like to do the figures of 8s. And then you really do get this sense that the energy flows and slowly my body gets sucked along. And as the body starts filling this leg, the energy manifests on the other side of my body. It's figures of 8s, but I'm with the leg that's emptying rather than with the leg that's filling. And in a way, it's easier because you just think of the leg and the arm doing the same thing. As my leg is straightening to empty, so is the arm. So my Mine just stays with the hand, if you like, the hand and the foot. And then I can just bring it back to the heaviness, to my mind just being with the heaviness. And they both need to be practiced. This is like a disciplined, this is the, just keeping everything together and focused. Because without that, I can't let the other side go. And then I just change to be with the lightness. Now it's the emptiness that's making a figure of eight rather than my fullness. You can see that this lightness, this emptiness that extends out of my back. So I'm turning away from it. It's like almost like I dare not look at it, because if I do, I know I'll ruin it. This is the sense with spirit. A heavy hand and it will just disappear. It's like a wild animal. You have to be really quiet and discreet. Otherwise, it won't come out and you won't see it, you won't catch it. Back to so even when we're sitting, we still want it strong. So the feet strong on the ground. So the big toes coming in a little bit. So either the second or the third toe is forwards. This real feeling that your outside edges are sinking down, so your knees are out. My sinking is sort of flowing down the outside edge. And then that lightness, not the strength. The strength is in the same place, but this sense of something fizzy that's coming up from the ground, coming up the inside, the instep. So your instep has to be strong. Your big toe has to be pushed down on the floor. And this is meditation, really. Meditation, when you're sinking in the right way, when your heaviness is dropping down and cutting into the ground, you're transferring some of the energy from above that rightly belongs to the ground down through your body. And then when you allow this fizzy lightness to come up through you, that is an energy that rightly belongs to the heavens, that is now using you as a channel to find its right home. You're doing a service to nature, which is what any natural object does. And we've, of course, lost that because we've lost nature. We just want to move the legs without them having to bear the weight. A walk. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then we just want that disciplined, clear mind. And so what we do, we keep the rhythm, keep this beat. And then we just double it up. Get it going in your mind first. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And just keep it sharp and clear and on the beat, like a musician. And then just back to one beat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we can double it up again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we just have to keep it regular. We don't want to rush and just speed up madly, because we're keeping that first beat going in the mind. And then back to the 1. And then something that's more difficult, which is switching into a 3-step, a waltz. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Make sure the feet are right. So that thing of the toes pointing in a little bit, that's all part of the sort of the tightness, the togetherness, the discipline. It's like focusing all these centers that are normally in our daily life just open and outward. We curl them in, discipline them to close down, contain them, so that our energy, our back, can open up. So the longer I stay in this position, the more enveloped I become in the energy that's billowing out of my spine, out of my back centers. So feel the sacrum, feel the occiput. So these two are easy to feel. And then the back part, just a bit lower than between the shoulder blades. The same feeling here, or it should be, that we had when we were sitting down, this sense that these centers are contained. They're not leaking. And of course, the difficult one when we stand up is this one, because it's wanting to fall forwards and the bum's wanting to stick out. So I have to keep this feeling of my spine melting down the back of my legs, sitting down into my legs, so that this has a sense of, it's got a sense of rising, but also a sense of just funneling into itself. So when you see someone that's just fat, especially like a guy that's just got too much flab, like a beer belly, you can see this just indicative of an undisciplined mind, an indulgent, undisciplined mind. And if they had that ability to just pull themselves together in a do something that requires focus, then this would naturally just gather in and they'd lose weight. Like the early Christian, the Desert Fathers, they were all painfully thin, partly because they were fasting all the time, but just that disciplined mind of holding everything in. But then it meant when they did let something out, it just had immense power. People were terrified of them. And then let's bring it up. But again, this feeling of the outside edges reaching down. Like you're trying to scoop something up all the time with your feet, like this. So if I have this sense of the outside edges sinking into the ground, then this lightness naturally just fizzles up my body. We're like a complex of energies and a complex of substances. So we've got the hardness of the skeleton and the bones, the softness of the flesh, the liquidness of the blood and the lymph, the electricity that's going through the nerves. And it's incredibly complex and rich. We want this real sense that we're allowing something to come up through us from the ground. You can see it when people are just walking. I often watch people walking in the park. If I've got some minutes to spare before I have to call on someone, I'll just sit on a bench and just watch people go by. Every human being is like a miracle, because there they are, they're walking, and something is just coming through them, especially through their eyes. Something magical. They're like a portal, and it's this energy is coming through from a completely different dimension, and just expressing, just evaporating out into the natural world. That's like the miracle of human beings, really. I don't know why we do that so well. Is what they say is to do with our vertical spine. Because animals are much more sort of focused. It's almost like they're traveling along a line and they don't really venture off it much. They're sort of prowling along this line. As soon as we became vertical, suddenly the whole 145 degrees, 35 degrees, this whole area becomes my domain. And we'd like it to be all the way around. So we just have to get a real sense of what's behind. And you can just sort of close your eyes and just feel what's behind. And as soon as you do close your eyes, you're much more aware of the feelings of your back. When the eyes are open, we tend to be with the things we can see, and we lose the things that we sense but we can't see. want to close the eyes so that your awareness is with the darkness, is with what's behind you. Prayer is just that, isn't it? It's just bringing everything that's in front of you into a focus, simplifying, not being distracted, and just sinking into your energy, which means going inside. And when you go inside, you naturally filter through the back into that domain behind you. Good.